Hello and welcome to the Aspects of History 2025 Books of the Year podcast. I'm your host, Oliver Webb-Carter, and this episode will be my last hosting the Aspects pod. But don't worry, you'll be able to find me elsewhere on the History Book Club podcast, which will be launching before Christmas. I will also be launching a new Troubles podcast in the new year called Nothing But the Troubles. But until then, I'll hand you over to me and the gang discussing our books of the year. Welcome to the Aspects of History Books of the Year podcast, the final Books of the Year, where the usual gang get together and talk about their favourite history books and historical fiction books of the year 2025. So with me here we have Roger Moorhouse, the author of Wolfpack, who listeners on this podcast will be very familiar with by
Horribly
now.
familiar.
I think yes.
It brings contempt.
We're verging on that. But Roger, who's part of the film club, but also has written many books on, who's been on, but most recently Wolfpack. Antonia Senior, the host of Spy Masters podcast, the historical fiction reviewer for The Times, and author of an upcoming book, not quite out, but will be fairly soon, all about espionage and the Cambridge spies. And then we have Richard Foreman, author, publisher, and a few other things.
Landlord. Prefer.
Zach Polanski won't like that. And then you got me, your host. So let's start with Roger. And your first book of the year.
Straight in.
Yeah.
Well, it's been quite a good year, I think, for history books. We got through all the sort of weird COVID projects that everyone had, and this is like the first crop of, some really good ones. My first, and there was a pretty rich collection to choose from, to be honest. My first was Tank by Mark Urban. Senior's putting a...
Yeah, for the benefit of listeners, Antonia is not impressed.
I enjoyed this book a lot. Now Mark Urban, obviously ex-BBC. I think he was he a defence correspondent?
Ex-tank.
Also an ex...
Captain, I think
he was in the tanks, wasn't he? So
I think he was in the tank. He was a tank commander about as long as I was a girl guide, though.
So a good 2 years.
No, I think, there was
But he did serve.
Armoured regiment or something?
Yes, he was. Yes, the Armoured Regiment, I think. So he comes at it from a position of, a degree of knowledge, personal knowledge. But it's a very simple premise, the book, actually. It's beautifully simple. He takes 10 tanks through the history of the 20th century, all the way from of course, the iconic British Mark IV from World War One, all the way up to the M1 Abrams, going via Panzer Mark IV, T-34, Tiger, so it goes on.
No Big Willie.
No Big Willie. No Big Willies in this at all. And he kind of tells the story of their development and how they come to be, and the technological aspect. And more than anything, I suppose it's also lots of eyewitness stuff and lots of accounts of the tankmen themselves and what it's like to be in them, what's like to be in them in the combat. And the overarching aspect, I suppose, is that that being the most decisive technological development in warfare of the 20th century, and how it's shifted. How first of all, it's all about weight, and you're sort of gradually increasing weight, and actually, the weight has kind of come down in the latter half of the 20th century, and it's that it talks a lot about this sort of triad in armoured warfare between mobility, firepower, and protection, and you're always trying to offset those three. There's always a compromise between those three factors involved. So, in talking about the development, it's a lot seen through the lens of that particular triad. So, really, very, very nicely written, nicely constructed. Of course, he's a former journalist, so he knows how to construct a sentence. And then the question at the end is, is the tank's day done? Is it sort of like, is it at one with the pikemen and the...
Do you remember the quote in the book? There's this brilliant quote given by an Australian general.
Right.
This Australian general said that tanks are like dinner jackets.
That's it, yeah. You don't need them
You
until
don't
you
need
do.
them till you
and
really
when you do,
need them.
nothing else will do.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a great line,
Yeah.
and it's absolutely right. So, Ukraine is kind of both the graveyard of the tank, literally and metaphorically, and also maybe pointing to its renaissance, because, without... because you've got that asymmetric warfare with drones and all of that, and then, what comes out of it perhaps could be the next generation of tanks, could be robot tanks.
AI.
Well, we don't know. So it's really interesting. It satisfies the sort of the nerdy, military-minded, historian in the family for Christmas morning. And also, it's got some sort of genuine meat to it, and genuine questions for the present day and for the future.
Antonio,
So, really enjoyed it.
What's your favourite tank, Antonio?
Listen, I did read this book and I enjoyed it much more than
You
I
read it?
thought. I did.
We
read
did.
it.
We did it on the podcast.
We do a podcast together called The History Book Buffs, and I did.
The History Book Buffs, for
Yeah.
anyone who would like to find another
me and Roger
history book podcast.
wanging on about books together and having a lot of fun. And I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, because it is really, fascinating.
He'll put that on the cover for the paperback.
It's really well written. It's just, me and military. All I would say is, if you're minded to buy this as a Christmas present for your wife, probably don't. Unless she's a very peculiar woman.
Does he mention Fuller?
Yes, of course.
Is that the tank
Yeah,
philosophy? Yeah. And also, I read a book by Mark Urban years ago, Generals, which he kind of selected the sort of 10 generals. And he's very good, because he's very good on the history, but he's actually very good on argument as well.
Yeah.
It's
It's very well constructed.
Yeah,
he does a lovely
the
job
real
of it.
deal.
It's
And he
quite
comes
sim-
of it as a historian, journalist, and ex-serviceman.
But it's
Yeah,
quite a
and
simple premise, and it could be quite kind of pedestrian, but it's kind of not. There's some really good material, really good argument, really the overarching story is really strong.
Material.
Listen, all I can say is that he made me be very interested in tanks for the
Momentarily.
duration of me reading the book, which is an incredible feat, and it shows he's a brilliant writer.
There you go.
Yeah, it's just like if I made you read a book about, I'm trying to think of something.
Literary fiction.
Yeah, if you had to read like a book about Anne Boleyn, dissecting her wardrobe as well as her religious philosophy, you'd be like,
I'd
fucking
struggle.
help me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I felt a bit like that, that's all.
What is your favourite tank, Roger?
I bet it's German.
It could. I do like the Tiger.
Me too.
Tiger. I mean, it's
Quality tank.
It's quality. I mean, that was the problem. It was too quality.
I love the
I
Tiger
do like
too.
that. He mentions the Panzer IV. I think the Panzer IV and the Panzer III, those two, that generation.
Sweet spot.
That was absolutely the sweet spot of German tank making. Wow. Completely. So, yeah.
Any
I
Russian
agree.
tanks?
Yeah,
'Cause they built them
T-34s
Do you
in...
think we've got
Oh,
any listeners
T-34 and...
left?
Yeah, let's steady on.
Are we done now? So he mentions the
sweet
T-34.
spot of German tank making. Can we move on?
During lockdown, I made a Tiger 2.
Oh, well done. Well, King Tiger.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
King Tiger.
Yeah.
Was
Was that with the Porsche turret or the Henschel turret?
Oh, I think it's the Porsche
There we
turret.
go. See?
Yeah. And I painted it in Ardennes forest
Oh,
colours.
marvellous.
I might put it on the Instagram.
Yeah, do.
Yeah,
Brilliant. I'd love
I'll
to see
link
that.
to that. Yeah.
I've got a Mark III that I built a few years ago in my office.
Oh, maybe we should get them out together.
What about the tanks?
Nice. Right. Okay. Slight tangent there. Right. Right, Antonio.
He really after those foreign rights, wasn't he?
I'm going to completely change the tone. I've picked 2 historical fiction and 1 history for tonight. I'm going to do my first historical fiction, which is not about tanks. It is Neil Blackmore's Objects of Desire, and I love Neil Blackmore's books. It's, I think, his 4th or 5th. He writes really spiky, funny, clever, layered books. This one is about a guy called Hugo Hunter, who is a writer of stature in sort of 60s, 70s New York. And as the 80s hit, he's been offered $2 million by his publisher to write a memoir and a new novel. The problem is Hugo Hunter stole both his previous novels and he doesn't know how to write a book. And the pressure is on, and we get all his backstory. We also get this incredibly sort of vivid and funny and bitchy portrait of the literary world, where basically a lot of the big writers are just terrible people. And
Does that sound familiar?
yeah, and it's just so funny. Like Nabokov's in there, and I can't. He swears quite a lot, and obviously I don't do that. It's just an absolutely incredible. It's a little bit like Yellowface, which was the big book a year or two ago.
Marja, my wife read that.
Yeah, Yellowface is great. This is kind of similar-ish, but I think it's better. It's funny how some books really take and other books don't. And his skewering of people who want to be a writer without doing any of the work of actually writing a book is just marvellous. I don't always love novels about writing novels, but I'm making an
Bit
exception
too
for this
sort
one.
of
Neighbour
meta.
gazing, stupid, meta. Yeah, exactly. But this is just great fun. It's really exuberant. It's really funny. It's really bitchy. It's just... And
What was the
also
title
very
again?
clever. Objects of Desire. Wonderful. Neil Blackmore's one of those writers. I've been banging on about him for ages. Everything he does is just fantastic. And he's under the radar and he shouldn't be. You know, it's one of those things as a critic.
He's not now.
Well, I hope not. It's one of those things as a critic you find quite frustrating because, you know, you bang the drum and you have a sort of platform of sorts, and yet still you see all the time kind of people become literary superstars who are a bit meh and people kind of flying under the radar. I mean, Neil Blackmore's got a very cult following. He's not, you know, he's not unknown in certain circles, but he ought to be
Better
celebrated.
Yeah.
And he's not. So he's
Good.
my
I
pick.
mean, I agree that if you're going to talk about the literary world, you need to do it with humour.
Well, it is inherently ridiculous in a lot
Yeah.
of ways. You know, and we speak as those that work within it, and to a large extent, you know, love it and it's our living and all the rest of it. But it is nuts, and
There's a brilliant scene in it where basically Gore Vidal has pressed his new novel on the hero Hugo, and Hugo
Is that all he pressed?
yeah, and Hugo knows that he's got to have an opinion of it, but he just can't be asked to read it because it's too long. So.
sounds familiar.
Yeah. So he kind of. So then Gore Vidal comes around. He said, "Darling, what do you think of the new one?" And the Hugo's basically starts talking about his Gore Vidal's sex life to try and derail him from questions about the tome. And it all just feels. It's all just very funny and very. Yeah.
I mean, there is the thing with, can you read this book, whether it's you review it or endorse it or whatever, and basically the answer to that will be, well, how long is it?
No, I know.
Probably the first thing I look
That's
at.
Roger's
to be honest.
first question.
Yeah. So when I was asked to review a book by Olga Tokagara, I think her name is, who wrote...
Wow, you've done well.
She wrote the book that was really big.
Oh, the tractors in Ukrainian, that one.
No, that it was the plow the bones over the bones of the dead.
Yeah,
that
Olga
one.
Tokarczuk.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was asked to review her second book, and I had like a week to do it, and it arrived, and I thought, my God, it's massive. How am I going to get this done? And I thought, okay, it's fine. And I said yes. And then I realised that was volume 1, and the book was so good they'd sent the proof in 2 volumes. It was like 1,000 pages. It was quite intense.
That's cruel. I mean, there should be against your human rights, really, shouldn't it?
Well, do you know what? It was a brilliant book, and I gave it a really good review while knowing that nobody was going to read it because it was 1,000 pages long. Anyway.
Good
What's-
stuff.
well, you can't give away the ending, I guess, but were you satisfied with the ending
What of
of
Olga?
Objects of Desire?
Oh,
No,
Objects
not
of
Olga.
Desire. Oh, yeah. Yes. I mean, the narration
Does
is...
he pull it off?
He absolutely makes it work. Yes. It's a fantastic book, and Hugo is a fantastic, unreliable, sociopathic narrator.
Perfect.
Totally nails it.
I thought you said he wasn't a writer.
Well, I mean,
Unreliable sociopath.
layers of irony. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Antonia. Of course, I should remind listeners that links for all these books will be in the show notes if you want to read Tank or Neil Blackmore's new book,
Objects of Desire.
Objects of Desire, which I did remember. Thank you. Richard, your turn.
Hello, listeners. Talking of proof, we are all having a drink as well as a mince pie. Just to
Well, I was going to set the scene
clarify
actually
that.
after
Where
you'd
are the mince
spoken, because
pies
we were in
then?
front of a roaring fire that Sadiq Khan would not be happy with. I'd like to point that out.
Shush! You'll get these spooks looking for
But
people
we might
who
not
grow
be in
wood.
London. We might be somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's
Not
possible.
even in Britain.
I mean, to be
Yeah.
honest, the house is so big, it probably does span a couple of postcodes.
Yeah.
But my first choice
Please.
is Tunis Grad by Saul David. And we're looking at a solid piece of military history. And, I mean, Roger and others may know this more than myself, but the book does seem to fill a very sort of narrow gap, but gap nevertheless in the kind of the story of World War II. So we're looking at kind of post-Alamein and before the Allies kind of land in Italy in earnest, and it's basically kicking the Germans off the continent. And this is a book that involves the Germans, who, as reading this book, you know, pound for pound, they really were the best army in the world back then. But the Brits and the Americans started to get their act together, partly, arguably, through Eisenhower and just the sheer might of American muscle. And this book is great because it's kind of grand strategy. The book opens with, I don't know, 20 pages on how the war's kind of going so far, which is excellent, I must say. And then it deals with the big picture in terms of, what was Churchill doing, what was Hitler doing, etc. But then it also deals with the soldier, the man on the ground, and it's excellent. It's entertaining. It's sold wonderfully well. I mean, Saul is one of our kind of, it's not the new Max Hastings, because Max Hastings is still with us, thankfully. But he is...
He's up there.
he is. He really is. He's in the Champions League of military historians now.
Well, I've read this. It's brilliant. And it's a campaign that's close to my heart because my grandfather fought in that campaign.
Which side?
I think listeners will know immediately. He won his first DSO on Banana Ridge. But yes, against the Germans. You'll be disappointed to hear, Richard. But yeah, it's a great... Because he does, as you say, you get the... I think there's... the Irish Guards were there as well, and they win a Victoria Cross I think in Tunisia that Saul writes really well about. But
It's interesting. I mean, having read quite a few of Saul's books and having chat to him, I mean, you may know this about certain German military honours, where whenever there's a defeat, there tends to be a number of medals awarded for valour as a kind of, not a cover-up, but certainly a sort of
As a
a
sort of
propaganda,
sop,
a sop.
like Rorke's Drift.
Yeah, exactly, which is, the big one. But there's other instances, and Saul sort of talks about where a lot of them are political. I don't want anyone to demean these people who win these medals, but some of them seem to be particularly the Victoria Cross. It's
My grandfather won a DSO at this campaign. Are you implying that he didn't deserve it?
only the records will show.
Well, the record is the most important thing.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
the first of his two DSOs.
Yeah.
2 DSOs. Wow.
What did he do for his Iron Cross? But that's an aside.
That gets edited out,
Yes,
by the way.
from the records. But it's. I mean, I think most of us have read it. Of course,
I've read it. It's wonderful.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's very good.
and it is. I mean, I think Saul's in his kind of the third chapter of his career, writing about sort of World War II. I mean, I don't want to obviously say his age. He's 60 next year, listeners. But he's now getting together a real canon of kind of, World War II books.
He's annoyingly good.
Which hopefully, in my second choice, I shall I shall talk about another World War II book of a similar ilk. But yeah,
I think his ability to tell the story from such a range of perspectives and make you feel the jeopardy of everything as it's going, I think is brilliant. It's really, really engaging.
Yeah. And I would say, I mean, you alluded to it, Richard, but the grand strategic aspect where he places the battle for Tunisia effectively and convincingly as one of the sort of main turning points of the war, which I think is one thing that's not really been properly appreciated before. But in terms of the numbers of men lost and the amounts of German material that are lost, aircraft and tanks and the rest of it, they're either destroyed or are just left in the Tunisian desert. It is right up there with Stalingrad in that sense, because it was a massive dent in the German war machine, which has not really been appreciated before, and he makes the case.
But
very, very well.
it needed Saul because it's not rare to find somebody who can write narrative history. It's not rare to find somebody who can do really good analysis. What is rare is finding someone who can do the narrative with panache and the analysis with heft.
Yeah.
And he can do that.
And he does that. Yeah. He's at the top of his game.
And it's got your friend Stauffenberg in it as well.
Yes, Stauffenberg's in there, of course. Yes. Yes.
Right, okay, we'll move to mine. Mine is a book that I've only very recently received, but I'm racing through it and I'm nearly finished it, and it's just been so good. And it is not a short book, but it's a very good book, and it's called The Rage of Party by George Owers. Owers. Funnily enough, at the time of recording, I'm due to interview him tomorrow. And so I have to not drink too much. But it's a fantastic... This is a hilariously riotous book that starts at the death of Charles II. So we're talking post-Civil War, of course, post-Restoration, and then it takes you all the way through a series of these kind of hugely tumultuous events that are very important constitutionally for us today, which I assume is why...
So Glorious Revolution, all that stuff?
Exactly. It's the development of the sort of
Political
two-party
parties.
system, really, the beginning of the two-party system. Well done,
Thank you very
Roger.
much.
This is
Thank you very much.
pre-1939.
I
Amazing.
know. Read it and weep.
Yes. And but so it's
a stopped clock is still right twice a day.
So it's a period of history that I suspect is unfamiliar to most, because I studied A-level history, and English history began my A-level began at the Hanoverian accession, so 1714. And this is the period before that that's so important. I wish I had done it at A-level, and now, having read this book, you kind of really do appreciate
And
how...
I mean, from all I haven't read it, but I've read a lot of reviews and stuff. I know
It was Times Book of the Year.
Yeah, I know.
Dominic Sandbrook picked it.
Yeah.
He recommended. There was another book that he recommended.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's kind of a romp, isn't it? I mean,
Well,
it's-
yeah, I mean, because he's got an eye for a character and a story, and that's so good. And particularly in this period of history where I guess it's so unfamiliar to many that it might be alienating in a way.
Yeah.
But once you learn that they're all sort of, well, not all, but there are some really dodgy characters. There are paedophiles, there are alcoholics, there are all sorts of really sort of degenerates throughout.
Yeah.
And this is the dawn of the sort of club system as well. And gambling, and they're all. It's the establishment of the City of London.
All that.
I mean, I mentioned the two-party system, but you get all this kind of stuff that is just romping through this sort of period of 25, 30 years of history, and it does slightly resonate. We're in a kind of post-Brexit wars, post-Civil War period, then post-Brexit wars now. And you're now seeing the dawn of a sort of new two-party system in a way, maybe. Who knows?
Maybe. Yeah.
But
Reform and the Green Party.
yeah, exactly. So it's just really good fun, and late 17th, early 18th century is underexplored, I think, in
Yes.
commercial history.
I've just downloaded it to my Kindle. I'm super excited about it. I can't wait. It sounds absolutely brilliant.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess we finished the first round. We'll go.
Marvellous.
We'll do Roger and Antonia's second books, and then we'll take a break.
Okay. For mince pies.
Yes, mince pies.
Yes.
Gin.
Yes, gin.
And gin. Brilliant.
Roger, your
Right.
second.
Second book is Oliver Moody's Baltic. Oliver Moody is the Times correspondent in Berlin, and I am delighted to say, as a great aficionado and enthusiast for Central and Eastern Europe, as you know, I'm delighted to say he completely gets, the mindset and the history and the viewpoint of the Baltic states, which is not one viewpoint, obviously, but they are, I think, broadly aligned. So he completely gets it. He gets the significance of that region historically and in modern terms. He understands the threats that they see, particularly from the east. And what he does with this book is to try and place the Baltic back at the centre of affairs, basically, particularly at the moment. But he explains why that's a necessary thing to do. And he describes that area as the world's biggest current flashpoint, and I think that's probably fair comment. And of course it's in Europe, it's in the EU, for God's sake. Right? It's within NATO. So he tells that story very well. The history, the modern history, and going back further, and as to how they've developed, and crucially their relationship with their eastern neighbour and how that's developed, and how they're influencing now. Great power policy, NATO policy, EU policy, for example. You see someone like Kaja Kallas, who is the EU's foreign policy supremo. Someone like Landsbergis, who was the Lithuanian foreign minister until fairly recently, who's extremely outspoken and very powerful voice, for the Baltic states, particularly with that relationship with Russia. So he explains how they are playing a role above their weight in international institutions. But he also makes the case, in spite of that we should collectively listen to them more. So they are already doing it, but he says we need to listen to them more because they get it. They understand what the threat is. They're a bit more, perhaps, immune to the sort of seductions and blandishments that the Russians tend to direct towards the West, which we can see Trump falling for repeatedly over and over again, and many Western politicians as well. They're a bit more immune to that because they get it, they understand.
A question for you on that.
Yeah.
Because what about, because you have states like Hungary and even significant movements in Romania and Bulgaria that are quite favourable to Russia. You don't get that in the Baltics.
No, you don't.
Why is that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's for somewhere like, for example, Bulgaria. Bulgaria has a traditional cultural link with Russia, linguistically, and also culturally through both share Cyrillic script, for example, things like that. So historically, very close ties. The Russians were the liberators of the Bulgarians in the 19th century and all of that. So there's a sympathy there. The Hungarians is a weird one that's kind of harder to explain because the Russians were as much the oppressors of the Hungarians as anyone, particularly in 1956. So that's a kind of a harder one to explain. I think that's just pure, corruption and money. Effectively, it's cheap fuel and it's corruption. But I think this is my point, I suppose, that the Baltic states, having spent most of the 20th century in the Soviet Union, in that sort of living death of the Soviet Union, and having only had that brief, 20 years of independence in the interwar period, and then regaining that after 1991, it's a very precious thing to them. And they see with absolute clarity, in a way that many others, even in Eastern Europe, don't. How Russia operates what threat it poses to them, both historically and in the present. So it's that degree of clarity, I think, that they bring to the table. So he, through this book, I think, he makes us, or we should appreciate the Baltic states and appreciate their opinion a bit more. He makes us rethink the role of small states. They shouldn't just be, on the receiving end of decisions of their bigger and better nations, because they have something to contribute. And he makes that case very, very well. And he said, the subtitle of the book is Baltic, the future of Europe. And I think he's got a point. Potentially that is where the future of Europe is going to be decided to a large extent. So I think, it's a fabulous book, combines a lot of history, a lot of sort of current politics, current strategy. Really, really fabulous piece of work.
Great stuff, Roger. Sorry about that, listeners. There's a beast in the room.
I've visited a number of the Baltic states in the last year or two, having not been before, and I was absolutely blown away by the way they have reinvented themselves in the last. It's extraordinary to think that they were Sovietized. They were brutally Sovietized twice by Stalin. And then kind of emerged from the darkness and have reinvented themselves as such kind of functioning...
And as resolute Europeans.
Resolute Europeans, functioning, thriving democracies and economies. And I think we just don't give them... people should be studying them. People should be at their knees going how did you do this?
Yeah.
Especially as we're all kind of collapsing into a slight sort of miserable morass of taxation and regulation. We should all be looking to the Baltics and saying, how did you do that?
Yeah, how did you turn it around?
Is there quickly a nod towards Thatcher in terms of...
Yeah, there is. There's a case, I know, I think it was Latvia, it must have been after the 2008 crash, I think it was, but Latvia decided that its budget was a third, its state budget was a third too big for what it could afford. So they literally cut a third from everything. Like every department had to be cut by a third. It's very kind of,
but
brutal,
then they came through the crash quicker than most.
And they pulled through absolutely. So it was painful, but they pulled through it quicker. Yeah. So they're really a lesson for all of us. I think they're amazing countries, and he makes the case that they are incredible countries, and they're lessons in every sphere for us in the West to learn.
Now you picked a book by your mentor. I forgot his name.
Martin
last
Rady?
year.
Martin Rady, wasn't it?
And that was a kind of more of a similarities and differences in their opinions. Would you say?
What was that? The Habsburgs one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a grand sweep of history. It's a very different book.
Middle Europe.
Middle Kingdoms. I think it was a grand sweep of history, all the way from, whatever it was, 900 AD to sort of, the end of the Habsburgs in 1918. So it's a very different book in that sense. It doesn't necessarily talk about, modern strategic concerns and so on. So it's very different in that respect. That's sort of pure history. This one is mixing in much more contemporary politics and strategy as well, and then using the history to explain why that's relevant.
Did he mention Marion Pahars, who
used to play for Southampton? I'm not sure he did.
Latvian.
I don't think that featured. I'm afraid. No, sorry.
Did you just
Missed
pull out
opportunity.
the only Latvian you could think of?
Well, he's a very important Latvian.
If you're a Southampton fan.
Yeah, Michael Owen is known as the English Marion Pahars.
Okay.
In your household.
Yes. Right, okay, we'll move swiftly on to Antonia's choice, and then we'll take a break.
Yeah, so my second book is The Revolutionists by Jason Burke. This book's had a lot of love this year, and I can see why. It's absolutely great. It's big. It's a big one. It's basically the story of terrorism in the 1970s. And he looks at two strands of terrorism. He looks at kind of left-wing terror and Islamic terror. And he kind of charts their top hits in the 70s. So we've got everything in there. We've got everything from the Munich Olympics to Carlos the Jackal and various hijackings. The overarching story he traces is how it is that by the end of the decade, leftist terrorism has kind of ebbed and declined, and Islamic terrorism, which starts the decade as a sort of quite secular, quite concentrated, Palestinian-flavoured kind of movement, ends the decade looking much more religious, much more infused by kind of Islamic jihadi kind of thought, and much more ruthless and willing to take lots of lives. And he's sort of trying to trace the links between those two movements and the ways that they differed and try and find explanations for it. So it's absolutely fascinating. There's so much really good stuff in there. So much really good stuff. My personal, I mean, there's so much to choose from, but the thing I adored was like the bits where the leftist terrorists were kind of training in Islamic jihadi terror camps, and the lefty kids would turn up from their college campuses like wearing skin tight flares and like carrying crates of beer and like wanting to have sex with each other. And
It's just the Your Party conference, isn't it?
yeah, and their Islamic hosts in the terror camps were like, "What are you doing? No, you got like dress decently and stop having sex with each other everywhere. This is the revolution, not the end of days." So it's full of like amazing stories and vignettes and amazing characters, and yeah, brilliant. Loved it. Loved every minute of it.
I mean, it was in the 70s, a little bit before my time, not that many years, but I mean, hijacking a plane was a terrorist sport, because also there was no deaths to begin with. It was that it was an unwritten rule that we're not going to kill anyone, just sort of.
There was no
see to some of
security
our
either.
demands.
You could walk on the plane with a machine gun.
That's
and
part
grenades.
That's part of the story. Is how did it move from being kind of a revolution that wasn't that bloody to kind of
Wasn't
mass...
Tebby a marker though, where basically we are going to go in and kill you now, so it upped the stakes, no?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's lots of he makes the case there are lots of kind of moments where the stakes are upped, and there's kind of
You got Black September before Munich. So that's earlier than that.
Yeah, so I mean, there's lots of ways you can trace it all through, and there's lots of different people kind of playing into the story. The other story in there that's really fascinating is he's got this young Swedish guy who tries to, who's like a spy, who sort of embeds himself into, as a left-wing activist, he kind of embeds himself into these organisations and is reporting back, and it's just, yeah.
I
find it,
Ollie? Fascinating, yeah. I find the whole Baader Meinhof thing fascinating as well. I mean, because I think, wasn't originally they kind of, I think Andreas Baader seemed to be a bit of a psychopath, but there was a ideological element that Germany was run by the people, their parents' generation, and they were all sort of Nazis, or if they weren't Nazis, they were associated to the regime, so they were...
So it kind of, I mean, very broadly, it grew out of the whole 68 revolution and, that whole mentality that the older generation are all fascists, so it was inherently revolutionary in that sense,
Yeah. It's so weird. I mean, because the Italian sort of splinter, the faction, the Red Army faction, isn't it? They were bombing up until the 90s.
Yeah.
And I think in Greece they murdered a British military attaché in 2000 or 1998.
Yeah. So it lingered, but it did. But he makes the point that it did largely kind of have a zenith in the 70s and then dwindle.
It's funny talking about it now, though. For broadly our generation, I'm kind of pointing at Richard more than anybody else in the room, but it was, terrorism was something we just grew up with. It was there, wasn't it? Whether it was the IRA or
certainly the IRA.
Yeah, but it was just in the news. You remember Aldo Moro and.
The Iranian embassy siege.
I
mean, one of the things is because of 24 hours TV as well, where I guess it got reported on more, and that maybe what fueled it as well.
Yeah. But it was just part of the furniture, it was pretty
much.
much.
I mean, you think about the kind of hysteria in the news and just with people generally, but growing up in London, the IRA threat was just there, but
Yeah.
it didn't really sort of curtail my behaviour. I mean,
You were like
I wasn't that
for a
old
start.
either, to be honest. But it didn't for other people around me, though. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
No.
It was just.
But it was just a given. It was like background
Yeah.
noise just to realise.
But then again, I think there was maybe a set of rules as well, where the IRA had targets that they wouldn't strike upon, for instance, and even some terrorist organisations where it wouldn't do their cause any good, and also if you did cross a line, then the other side would cross a line.
Yeah. So it's more about disruption rather than
Yeah.
killing, right?
It is funny though because the IRA don't really feature in this book, and I'd be quite interested. I had Jason Burke on the podcast, and I didn't ask him why, but I guess they don't quite fit his two.
Well, they're left wing.
Yeah, but they were sort of a thing apart, though, aren't they? They're not left wing in the
That's
same
not
way.
really
that the Baader
driving
Meinhof-
their
Yeah, that's not what they're.
terrorism.
No, but
No,
that
it's not.
was the
It's
side
true.
that was driving their politics.
Yeah.
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 And you see now today the link between the IRA and kind of pro-Palestinianism.
Yeah, of course.
That's still
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
I don't know why. he
Conceit
didn't put
never
them in.
goes out of fashion.
Oh, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good book though.
Unlike my wardrobe.
Well, he wrote
Your
a really,
wardrobe's never been in fashion.
I think that's fair. That's fair.
but he must be really
That's not an
good
extremist view.
because he wrote a really good book about Al Qaeda, and
Yeah, so he's a long-standing.
he knows it.
He
He
knows
really
his onions.
knows it.
He's
his
a
stuff.
security
yeah.
correspondent for the Guardian. I
Yeah.
think he really knows
He's
his
brilliant.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
Excellent.
stuff. All right, well, we're going to take a break now, and then we'll resume. And Richard, you can pick your second book. How exciting! Right, Richard, your second book, please. And I should mention that we've had a spectator who's actually left the room now, Jasmine. So I've mentioned her while she's not in the room. I should have mentioned when she returns, but when she does return, I will announce that she's returned. But our listeners,
Do you want to clap again?
That's very,
That's
very
very
convoluted.
Jasmine's our umpire to make sure that we behave well, basically. And how
And
did-
she's looking for a job in publishing.
yes.
So I don't know why she's listening to us.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
know why she's left the room now.
I know.
So second choice, and it's. I have been paid for this. This is like a sort of you need to say when you're being paid to advertise a book, but it's Roger Morehouse's Wolfpack.
Sorry to interrupt, but just for the sake of the listeners, who've had the wolf pack rammed down their throats for about 6 to 8 weeks,
It's 'cause it's so good.
2 years.
which I'm all for. But you don't have to go into a huge amount of detail
I won't. It's not worth it.
as to what it's all about.
No, I'm getting the subtitle. It's the U-boat war, and well, two quick things. So the book opens with a dramatic statement where Roger argues that the in a sense the U-boat war didn't threaten us as much as other historians would lead us to believe, and it's a very kind of important point, and it grabs you. It's a very smart introduction, and then also the actual close of the book is excellent in its summation about the campaign, where we weren't sort of in the jaws of annihilation because of the U-boat war, and he kind of proves his thesis. So the beginning and the end are very impactful. There's this great lull in the middle. No, I joke. It's no Tunis Square, but I joke. This is a little bit like Tunis Square. It's very good on the grand scheme of things about what's happening in the course of the war and how it's impacting upon things. But then it also kind of captures the claustrophobia of being inside one of these kind of, oh, Jesus Christ, the awful. It's worse than your party conference. I mean, it really is this sort of dirty.
Sounds quite fun.
It's hellish, and we have kind of lots of sympathy, the Brits, for people who suffered the Arctic convoys and other things like that, and being and flying in bomber command. But the attrition rate was even worse.
Yeah.
And Roger captures that
75%.
I mean, I must say it's a bit weird where you can admire these people for what they suffered, etc. But every time one of those U-boats went down, I did clap. And it's very good. It covers the course of the war. I mean, it seems that you've covered the book quite a lot. But again, it's this wonderful mix of kind of narrative and insertion of argument. And we also kind of throughout it is this kind of story of your Dönitz, and which is also very good because he's a great thread during the book where it's this weird thing where it's like, give me more U-boats, but then when they start to get more U-boats, we've kind of found them out, and we have certain defence mechanisms against them. So for anyone interested in naval history, World War II, the Germans, the Nazis, put it in your stocking, basically.
Can I just say, anybody who's interested in being human should put it in their stockings.
It's Roger Morehouse we're talking about. That and being human there's a discrepancy.
Oh, you're such a dick. Honestly, it's such a great book. I have pressed it upon lots of people, some of whom would not normally read things they consider to be military history, because it isn't really military history. It's about the experience of going to war, and I would compare it to some of the great writing about being in Vietnam, or some of the great writing about, being in any war. I think it's one of the best books I've ever read about being at war, and I'm not just saying that because we're on the same sofa. I genuinely think it's brilliant.
Wow.
So there you go.
Well, I thought it started badly. It tailed off in the middle. And the less said about the end, the better. But apart from that, it was brilliant. No, Roger, you know how much I like that book. So this is, like, there's no way the Aspects of History podcast is not going to recommend.
No, it's
Wolf
true.
Pack. But it's for good reason. It's like,
He's one of our biggest patrons.
But
Yeah.
I'd like to think it might be there on merit as well.
It is there on merit. I mean, if we didn't even know you,
I did get the nod in the Times the other week.
Exactly. Yes, I should have
Yeah,
mentioned
from
that.
Dominic Sandbrook. So
who is,
Yeah.
almost a god.
And it got
Almost.
reviewed.
Almost.
Also, by a different reviewer in the same newspaper, reviewed very positively as well. Was it Gerard de Groot?
No, it wasn't John Groot. No, it was someone else. I can't remember his
But
name.
I think it's been reviewed positively twice in one newspaper.
Yeah.
And
So
I forgot to mention Jasmine's back in the room. I've already introduced you to the listeners, Jasmine. You're our umpire to make sure we don't swear.
Yeah, I'm presiding.
Yes. So, Roger, yes. And how have you found the reception so far?
Yeah, good. No, it's
Adulation?
gone very well. I mean, I'm already, I've started the next one. So, time doesn't stand still. History doesn't stand still.
What about, it sell? Is it on sale in Germany yet?
No, I'd be surprised if a German edition comes out of that,
Why?
to be honest. The German history market's quite peculiar. They don't really want to hear about,
Defeat.
No, it's not that. They don't want to hear about
Atrocities.
a sort of an empathetic account of their own soldiers.
Really?
They'd rather have them damned.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So, another chapter of awfulness and another sector of German society implicated in the awfulness would probably sell in Germany. But a book just saying, this is what it was like and it was grim and so on, they're not interested.
But you've done quite a few events in this country, and has there been a sort of popular question or point of interest in terms of people have read it or not read it and what they want to know?
I've done quite a lot of events with it. I did Cheltenham. That was good fun. I hadn't done Cheltenham before.
That's a big one, Roger.
Big one. So I've done quite a few. There's been a lot of interest actually, and there's been a lot of. I think one of the shocks is the sort of sheer horror of it, of actually life in a U-boat, which is, I mean, you can imagine that it's pretty horrible, but then you have to imagine it's a lot worse than
it's
that,
as you say, it captures
right?
the smells. Even,
Yeah,
really,
it
as well.
smells and it's mould and it's rotting potatoes. I mean, someone made the point basically, the men themselves are rotting. Basically, they have endless sort of skin diseases and scabies and also scurvy and it's truly gruesome. And when you start to look at it from that perspective, then all of that stuff looms very large, which isn't really part of the conventional narrative of the Battle of the Atlantic at all. So I think that's what that I like to try and bring something to the party in terms of degree of novelty or new perspective.
He's not brought scabies to this party.
No, hopefully not. Yeah,
no.
Otherwise it's going to be on the sofa. So yeah, I like to try and bring something to discussion, and the health situation was catastrophic. Same with the mental health. PTSD is rife. Basically combat stress and so on. So all of that, I think, was an important part of it, and that was one of the big surprises for me, but also for a lot of readers, I think.
Good stuff. All right, we'll move on to my second book, which is The Power and the Glory, The History of the World Cup by Jonathan Wilson. It's a book about the Football World Cup, that's the FIFA World Cup. Mm-hmm. And, football does appear in it, of course, quite a bit, and the matches are described, but also you get all the politics and the history behind what's going on in these periods. And Jonathan Wilson, who is I think, top football writer at The Guardian, he's written many great history books on football, one of which is called Inverting the Pyramid, all about tactics. Which
I've heard of that. Yeah, it's a classic. Yeah,
I didn't really understand it, I have to say. I'm not very. I did mention. I did interview him. I mentioned this. I'm not very good on football tactics. I'm very much a Jack Charlton follower on that. Lump it up to the big man.
Hoof it up to the big man. Yeah.
He'll nod it down.
Put snow on it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's my style that I like best.
Which is not how Southampton played, to be fair.
No, we're one.
Southampton play now.
Matt Letizia is, of course, the antithesis of that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, my primary tactic would be, since you ask, Roger,
would be
listeners settle in. Would be to basically put Matt Letizia in the centre of the pitch and then get everyone to pass the ball to him all the time.
I mean, I share a birthday with Matt Letizia. So,
do you?
So, yes.
14th of October.
Yes. So, and I think we're maybe a year out, but we're basically the same age.
Oh
so
my God.
You don't want either of us in the middle of the pitch. Yeah, exactly. Don't want either of us in the middle of the pitch now. I mean, maybe 30 years ago.
No one else
not
would
now.
fit.
I invited. Since we're talking about Matt Letizia, I invited him to my wedding, but he didn't respond.
He politely declined.
We're going back to the book.
Yeah, sorry.
Where there are lots of politicians and machinations behind.
Well, you get FIFA is the FIFA and what they get up to is obviously it's a FIFA competition. So of course it's a threat.
It's hugely corrupt,
Yeah.
right? And
They're a lot more honest about their corruption now, I believe.
It's a bit more obvious.
I wouldn't say honest. I'd just say blatant.
It's more obvious.
It's more. I mean, the awarding of the World Cup now.
Qatar, anyone?
The latest
Russia.
is Saudi Arabia.
And I think Hamas are getting the next one.
Saudi Arabia 2034 is the latest.
Absurd.
I mean, it's been given to Saudi Arabia
Absolutely
2034.
absurd.
And he was saying to me,
I think Ming the Merciless gets the one after that.
I mean, probably North Korea, maybe, I don't know. But Jonathan Wilson was saying
Sadiq
that
Khan.
journalists are genuinely concerned about writing about this now after Jamal Khashoggi, the journalist, was chopped up.
Yeah.
why was it that to do with the World Cup?
No,
but
it was
Saudi
to do
journalism,
with
annoying
annoying Mohammed bin Salman, who's had the World Cup awarded to him.
Or they'll just sort of
That's
red
what he
card
said.
him. You won't be allowed to go.
That's what he said. So, I mean, certainly not him. He's unafraid to write about this. But I suspect if you're a journalist in Saudi Arabia, you're thinking...
okay, fair enough. And also, all the stadiums and stuff they're going to build with slave labour, and who's going to write about the slaves?
Oh, of course.
As they did
just
with
like Qatar.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he writes about, the Qatar and the Moscow as well. But going back even into the 30s with, Mussolini's with Italy, I mean, this was all... I mean, as he rightly says, every World Cup is a propaganda exercise by the country hosting it.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Even 1966, Pickles.
even that, Roger.
What was the propaganda
I can believe
message
it.
out
I'm
of
cynical
that?
enough to believe it.
Well, no,
but what
no,
was the
Britain's
what was the
best.
Britain's
what
a
was
Well,
bit
no, it's
shit.
like England's great. You know, 1960s swinging England.
Okay.
You know, all this kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
and then we lost the World Cup. We
Yeah,
physically lost the World Cup.
Exactly, and then found it again.
And what's
Yeah.
what's the deal with the next one in America? Like, is there a
Well, there are
story?
problems with that because Infantino is so sort of aligned to Trump now and hangs out in the office all the time. And there's the World Club what's that FIFA competition that
the
Chelsea
World
won?
Club
And-
Championship.
World
yeah.
Cup.
Oh, that was like the warm-up practice.
So
thing.
Wilson was telling me that this is really interesting. If you win the Argentinian football championship, the equivalent of the Premier League in Argentina,
Yeah.
the cash prize for that is something like 300, 400 grand.
Right.
I might even be exaggerating that. 300 or 400 grand. For them just entering this World Club Championship, which they do as winning the Argentine, they get like 100 million for just being there.
Really?
Chelsea won nearly $1 billion, I think, out of it.
That's
didn't they?
insane.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's at the door.
Well, the numbers might be a bit different, but yes, I am sure.
Might have added a few zeros.
But the point being that
Are FIFA still paying in lira?
the amount of money that these clubs from leagues that make very little money are making through the FIFA, they're just completely skewing the market back home.
Yeah.
So listeners might want to just double check on the figures. But I think the percentage increase that you can get from a FIFA competition is insane. But no, it's really interesting. Right, he writes about, obviously he goes through each
Does he
World
touch
Cup.
upon the Women's World Cup?
No, it's the Men's World Cup. But it's each. He goes through each World Cup, and Jasmine, this is where you come in and you can point of order. So he goes through each World Cup and goes through the awarding of the World Cup. So there's a hilarious scene where Henry Kissinger is giving a speech to try and win the World Cup for America in 1986. So he's doing this speech in 83 or something, and he's like an hour-long speech that Kissinger's giving, and halfway through his speech, he can see the Mexican delegation are cracking open the champagne. They know they've already been awarded. And, these sort of shenanigans are quite amusing. And Wilson writes them in, he's got a nice style, and he's got a sense of humour, which is important. But, it's just a fantastic book. And I immediately turned to the World Cups that I remember.
Yeah, of course.
But then all the ones
What's the first World Cup you remember?
It was 86.
86.
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember 86.
Mine was 78.
Oh, God.
Or maybe I remember 74. 78 Argentina.
82, I remember I had the Panini sticker album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Senior, what was yours?
86.
86 as
Yeah,
well.
very
Wow.
clear.
Wow. Jasmine?
I love a World Cup. 2024, Jasmine says.
Wait, we didn't have there wasn't a World Cup.
But it is nice. No. But we have got all the home nations nigh on.
Northern Ireland might get through.
Yeah, they're still. And
That would be
I mean,
crazy.
that added a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Was it weird though? Was it Scotland was 28 years ago that they were in a World Cup? It's just.
Yeah, 98.
Jesus.
Was it 98?
Yeah.
How old are we?
It's the last time they were in the World Cup.
What's that with Strachan?
No, that Craig Brown.
No, Craig Strachan when he scored and put his.
No, he was much earlier. Strachan was about 38, 40 by then. No, it was that was John Collins scored knee and penalty against. Can't remember. Did they draw against Brazil?
Yeah, and it was like a
It
victory.
was John Collins, wasn't it?
Guys,
Anyway,
Right. Sorry. Okay.
talk about those tanks.
Right. Let's go to Roger's third and final book.
My third and final. This I must say is a proper history book.
and as opposed to the last two.
Yeah, okay. I'm not
opposed to Wolfpack.
denigrating the other two, but I picked this up, and I kind of wasn't honestly expecting that much of it, but I was very impressed with it. Eagle Days, Victoria Taylor, really solid, very very well researched history. It's basically the German perspective, so a little bit analogous to what I did with Wolfpack, but it's the German perspective on the Battle of Britain. Very archivally led, lots of first-hand material, lots of stuff that's not appeared before, in translation for the first time. So loads of primary material. Beautifully written. Our little in-joke there. But it is
So
beautifully
you
written.
haven't read it?
Of course I have. Beautifully written. So, really nice. I mean, genuinely nicely done. So she combines the sort of strategic with the first-hand stuff. Lots of archival. Really, really nicely done. And makes the point that I suppose there's a bit of a historiographical battle about the significance of the Battle of Britain. I mean, we tend to sort of big it up as one of our great victories.
Totemic moment, yeah.
In a sense.
It was.
Which it was, but that's been revised by other historians, not least German historians, who say, well, it wasn't. It really was a bit of a sideshow.
Say that, wouldn't they?
She actually puts it back into sort of centre stage, and crucially from a German perspective, where if you look at the losses, and crucially if you look at the loss in terms of morale for the German forces, because prior to that they hadn't really had a defeat, right? They had, and certainly not in the air. They'd bombed the crap out of Warsaw, they'd bombed the crap out of Rotterdam, and so on. Guernica in the pre-war period. So they'd been very, very practiced at that, and they'd done very well at it, and it was their thing to a large extent. And then 1940 into 41, Battle of Britain, and obviously including the Blitz in that as well. That was essentially one of their first setbacks. So she makes the point that not only in terms of materiel, i.e. planes and manpower loss, but also in terms of a morale blow, it is very significant, and that comes from the voices of the Germans themselves, crucially. She also makes the point in it that they are much more sort of driven by ideology than we conventionally, imagine. We have this rather romantic sort of view of the war in the air as being kind of vaguely chivalrous. It's not. Because it's a new branch of the German armed forces, and it's very much tied together with Nazism in that sense. Then the ideology was much more pervasive and much more common and commonly expressed by Luftwaffe pilots and crews and so on. So she makes that point again, makes it very well using all those the original materials, and it was brutal. That sort of chivalrous that aspect that we like to play up is kind of imaginary. It's
Did some of the pilots end up in Trent Park and they recorded the?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a big source.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
so
so-
it's a really really well done, properly sourced, very very well written history book. Highly recommend it.
Have you watched the recent Adam Curtis documentary on the BBC iPlayer?
No.
It's called Shifty, but in it they find a fighter pilot is dug up in the Isle of Sheppey in the early 1980 or something, and it's a hurricane that's just sort of crashed during the Battle of Britain into the Isle of Sheppey. It's soft earth.
Yeah, they bury themselves.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
They go
So
like 20 or 30
then,
feet.
and then they interview some of the pilots who fought with the pilot who's dug up,
yes.
and it's quite interesting because they go to the point that you were making about, or that Victoria was making in the book, that we have this view that it's a romantic sort of chivalrous dogfight.
Yeah, knights in the air.
Knights
Yeah,
in the air.
And they interview a pilot in 79, 80 who says the trick about fighting in the air in those days was you had to stab people in the back. You had to come in behind them and they wouldn't even know you were there, and then you stabbed them in the back.
God,
And
it's
there was
like Harrow.
It's not very
It's like
chivalrous.
Harrow.
nothing polite about it at all, nothing sort of romantic about it at all. It was nasty business.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course if you add into that mix, particularly with the Battle of Britain, the presence of the Poles, who of course the Polish Squadron 303 was the highest scoring.
The Forgotten Few by Adam Zamoyski.
Exactly, great book. But they were the highest scoring squadron of the Battle of Britain was a Polish squadron, right? And they were veterans of the Polish campaign of '39. Who had every reason to absolutely despise the Germans, and they went for it.
Yeah.
They were gloves were off. I mean, there's they would absolutely brutal.
It was
So if-
skill
They would
and malice.
shoot parachutes and stuff.
So there's examples of that as well. Aircrew having parachuted out would occasionally be targeted as well. Absolutely, because it was gloves off as far as they were concerned.
Well, also, it was like, we know what we're up against. This is a fight,
yeah.
an existential fight. Yeah.
So she does make that point. That this is, that sort of chivalry stuff is for the birds. This was brutal. Very good book. Very
Great
good
stuff. Okay, Antonia.
So for my third book, Ollie, I would like to recommend Tom Holland's new translation of Suetonius, the Lives of the Caesars. So I've read this book on and off for years. I've got a very well-thumbed old edition of the Penguin Classics. I remember reading it for the first time, I think, when I was at school, when I was absolutely delighted to find something so entertainingly sort of vicious and scabrous and
Smutty, isn't it?
smutty,
Yeah.
that was also, good for you because it was like a proper classical text. Tom Holland.
Who was the translator for that one? Antonia, if you don't mind my asking.
The original, the Penguin Classics one? I don't know, Ollie. All I remember is it's the
Disappointing.
Penguins Classics. I've got it somewhere on that shelf. I can go and dig it out if
Well,
you
let
really
me
need
check.
to know. Yeah, you go and check. And Tom Holland does a fantastic job. He makes some quite interesting choices. He does a brilliant introduction.
But it's still the 12 Caesars, though.
Yeah.
But there are a few significant changes that he introduces, aren't there?
Well,
in his
are they
translation?
changes? So, for example, all right, he got this when we were doing this the other day for our different podcasts. What were Nero's last words?
It's nothing. It's something to do with a fiddler.
No, it was, what an artist dies in me, right? Is the classical way that phrase in Suetonius is translated, but Tom Holland translates it as, "Oh, to die a mere artisan," which is like a completely different thing, right? But both are justified in the original Latin.
Okay.
And I think so. Anybody new to Suetonius should pick up this translation because it's vibrant and beautiful. Anybody who has the old Penguin Classics version, who I can't remember who actually did it, it should pick it
I'll
up
have
and read
that.
it.
Yeah,
I read his translation of Herodotus.
Yeah.
And it was really, really very entertaining.
Yeah, hugely
It's a
entertaining.
very informal translation. If
Yeah.
That's the right.
Chatty, loquacious.
Yeah.
Like you're in a bar with your really good mate who's telling you
Modernised, yes.
Yeah, who's telling you all about how Tiberius liked fiddling with children. Great fun. He could
Played the violin, did he?
Yeah. Suetonius could sit around the table of like one of our, dinners and totally hold his own and keep us enraptured with his tales. And Tom Holland gives us that flavour of
gives you
that
that,
guy.
yeah. That's what you want.
But it's also gossipy. I mean, it's Plutarch as well, and it is. There is an extravagance to it. I mean, these people even back then were selling books.
Yeah,
Herodotus
well,
and-
they were gossipy and they were mythic.
yeah.
But then, this is also, Suetonius is writing a bit later, so he's writing post the Julio-Claudians, and part of his agenda is to make them look a certain way, to make them look as if they were all shagging their sisters and, doing all the terrible
weren't
other
Welsh.
things. Yeah. So,
So there is that element to it.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah.
a bit like Shakespeare, kind of.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. This is
yeah,
this is an attempt to besmirch as much as it
Yeah,
is an
okay.
attempt to
Enlighten.
faithfully describe.
well, and entertain.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
to entertain, and it's an entertainment, and it's fabulously entertaining. And Tom Holland does it beautiful justice. So yeah, I'm all in.
No,
favour of that one.
I am gonna read it. It's I think it's out in paperback soonish.
Get the hardback. The hardback's so beautiful. Spring for the hardback. Come on,
It's been a tough year, listeners.
don't be tight.
No,
Spring
I
for the
will. I
hardback.
will. I mean, listen, Tom Holland is a superb historian. Rubicon. If you're going actually, in terms of books of the last 30 years, if you're going to read a history book, read Rubicon.
It's so interesting that he I think, studied English at his undergrad.
He did, but then, funnily enough, he learned Latin for Rubicon. He then learned ancient Greek for Persian Fire. This is the brightest of bright boys.
Yeah, I think he.
yeah.
I
He's a
think
brain.
He
Yeah.
was commissioned to translate the Herodotus before he spoke, before he could read the Greek, and he had to kind of teach himself good enough.
That's punchy.
Greek.
It's punchy to accept that commission, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't actually speak the language.
Yeah, can you imagine?
I mean, I think I'm not. I don't think I'm misremembering that. I think I heard him say that. I mean, it's pretty much what I'm going to do with all my next books. I'm just going to.
I mean,
claim
Tolkien-
that I'll learn Russian.
Tolkien
By the
didn't speak
time-
Elvish before he wrote Lord of the Rings.
That's also true. No Elvish at all.
No, where did he go to learn Elvish?
Wows.
Yes. Okay, Richard, your
Oh, last
final
choice.
book.
So for last choice, a bit of sort of fun fiction, if you like, is Sharpe's Storm, which, how can you not love Bernard Cornwell? I mean, the most memorable thing about it was, in a sense, the afterward, where he says it may be the last Sharpe book, which...
Did that bring you up
sort of
short?
punched me in the stomach, really, for various reasons. And as fun as Sharpe's Storm is, in terms of anyone listening to this podcast, just read any Sharpe, and it will tick the boxes for you. I mean, I remember being a sort of teenager, and I was reading, I think, 3 Sharpe books a week. The only thing I do in 3s now a week is bottles of port and curry. But it is a great fun book again. I mean, Bernard Cornwell deserves even more than a knighthood. It's just basically this guy will entertain you as in terms of if you read him. But any of you writing historical fiction, just read Bernard Cornwell and your book will be far better, far more commercial.
Ironically, it was Bernard Cornwell who learnt how to write historical fiction by reading C.S. Forester.
Yeah.
So he literally pulled apart.
Yeah.
I think it was the Happy Return. I can't remember which one. Anyway,
Yeah, I think the story
and
is
worse.
that he used to work for the BBC, and there was a time where he was going to move to America because he was marrying his wife, and he had trying to get his visa.
Yeah.
And, he set out to write some historical fiction. But anyone now, read C.S. Forester and Bernard Cornwell and Patrick O'Brien and, George MacDonald Fraser. These people knew what they were doing. And also they have sold in gazillions. So that's why you should also read them.
And this latest Bernard Cornwell is The Invasion of France, I believe.
Yeah.
It's a bridge too far, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Invasion of France, so it's set in between other books in the Sharpe universe. So that is a failing because the last few books of the Sharpes have been set have been wedged in the middle of other things. So in one sense it works in this one because he plays with the fact that we know some stuff. So for example, Sharpe aficionados, I might be getting too deep into the weeds here, but if you're a Sharpe aficionado, you know that he marries this woman called Jane, who turns out to be a right wrong-un, right? But you know she's going to be a wrong-un. But at the point at this book is
She's
set,
quite hot, though.
She's quite hot.
Sean Bean married her in real life, I believe.
Did he?
Sean Bean's been married more times than Sharpe.
Oh, there you go. Anyway.
Sean Bean may have been married more times than Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Yeah, probably.
5.
Boys, the point is that Sharpe doesn't know what we know,
Yeah.
that she's going to be a wrong-un in this book. And Cornwell really, really plays with that, which is kind of fun. But there is a deeper problem that this does feel a little bit like a wedged story. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
It's shunted in.
It's shunted in between other books.
But this shouldn't be your first Sharpe book you read. But when you read the others, you'll want to read them all.
And this makes an additional one to read, which means you get more pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. And it might be his last one. And that's sad.
Yeah.
I mean,
Don't be sad, be happy for what we had.
Yeah, 24 of them. I'm just
24?
sad. Yeah, I wish I hadn't read them all.
Did you read the short story, Sharpe at Christmas?
It's Sharpe's Christmas. Yeah.
And then Sharpe's Skirmish, I think?
There's two, yeah.
And did you read the Pawn one, which was not written by Bernard?
No! No.
I
Sharp's
was
really
Googling
big
for
sword.
this.
What sort
Jasmine,
of a
cover your
question
ears.
is that?
Yeah, Jasmine, this is. I'm not going to recite the plot or read it out, but I was looking for a short story that I'd heard about,
Were
which
you?
turned out was Sharp's Christmas. But I was Googling, this was in the early 2000s, and I found a short story that was a porn short story. It involved Sharp, Harper, and La Marquesa. Do you remember the Spanish,
Yeah.
quite hot Spanish
The hot
aristocrat?
Spanish, yeah.
Well, it involved a threesome with the three of them, and I was just sort of
And a
reading this.
bayonet.
I might read that.
Well, I don't know if it's still available, but listeners, you can Google it with
fact, I wrote
a
that.
safe search, I suppose. Make sure you have VPN and all that kind of stuff. All right, my third and final book is
I thought you just did it.
Yeah.
well, that's a little Easter egg, I suppose.
Sharp and Harper's big swords.
yes, not written by
Sharp's End.
Not
Sharp's
maybe Bernard did write it. Who knows?
Do you know, I stumbled across on
we go.
yeah. Do you know, Kindle Unlimited is literally 80% made up of porn versions of Pride and Prejudice with different levels of spiciness. So like you can get like S&M versions when Darcy's really into like, you know, beating Lizzie with a cane, and then sort of slightly less spicy versions where they just snog a lot and fondle.
Links in the show notes.
It's all very. It's a weird old world out there.
Are we cutting this bit?
No. Right.
Can we put this bit at the beginning instead of that boring shit about tanks?
Yes. Right. Okay. So final book, and mine is if not technically a history book, a book that I think is sort of historic. Certainly has historic connotations. Is The Mad and the Brave by Colin Freeman, which is a book all about the Ukrainian Foreign Legion in fighting in
wow.
Ukraine. And Colin Freeman is a Telegraph journalist, and he spent a lot of time in Ukraine. He spent a lot of time in lots of foreign wars. He's been a war correspondent for many years. I think he was kidnapped in Somalia.
He was. He wrote a book about it.
Yeah, he's been there and done it. You sound like you know him.
No, I know Colin. He's a fine human being and a fine writer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got one little aside that when he came back from his a time of being a hostage, I took him for a curry, as I do, and I mean, I enjoy my curries, but Colin did not enjoy this curry. Bless him.
Was it
It
the
was
first
his first
one?
curry back.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he had a horrific time. There's a book about it. I mean,
What was it? Chicken fowl?
What's that? Sorry. Have you gone too far?
Chicken
Was
fowl.
it a chicken fowl?
I can't remember the dish, but I remember he basically he glowed. He really did. Yeah, more than if you had Novichok. But yeah, Colin is a fine man and a fine writer.
Well, I think he's someone who, you know, Putin would quite happily get rid of with Novichok, wouldn't he? Because he's like really done a lot of work in Ukraine, but he's been he's been around speaking to a lot of these foreign fighters. So these vary from. He really has. It's kind of exposed this. Like many things, when you draw back the veil and you look into stories that are that one reads about in the newspapers, all the romanticism falls away. Mm-hmm. And you know, in the immediate aftermath of the Russian sort of, I suppose we call it the second invasion in
Full-scale
2022.
invasion.
Yeah, full-scale invasion, military operation, whatever we want to call it.
A special military operation.
Special military operation. I think it's a huge number of people. Zelensky said, "Oh, a huge number of foreign fighters have volunteered to join the war," and so it turns out that claim was made. Basically, that was just an email address that was emailed. It didn't mean that they'd actually shown up and volunteered. It meant people had sent an email. And so this guy had said, you know, Zelensky had said, "Oh, hundreds of thousands of people have volunteered," but that's not actually true. And it turns out, you know, a lot of the time they're spending the the Ukrainians didn't really know, the Ukrainian military didn't know what to do with this sort of set of people who did travel to Ukraine, many of whom didn't have any kind of military training. And so they were a headache. And even those that did have military training were a headache. Because what do you do with them? You know, they're not part of your military. So then you have to create a whole... I think it's got a lot better since, and they have a more organised area. But ultimately, it seemed as though the Foreign Legion, the Ukrainian Foreign Legion, was kind of used as cannon fodder. Because there was no... They didn't have a political... representative in the upper echelons of the Ukrainian military.
Wasn't there a propaganda value having them?
Of course.
Protecting for
Well, that's why
reason?
Zelensky said he had so many volunteers, because it made it look like, you know, and it's true because he had a huge amount of international support. So it's inevitable.
I remember flying to Warsaw in that spring
Yeah.
after the full-scale invasion 2022 and noticing very obviously that the plane I was on, which was a regular, you know, London to Warsaw service, was absolutely chock full of people in combat fatigues. So there was a lot of people.
do we know the
going over
percentage
there in
that
various
were
capacities.
ex-army or were just
Wannabes.
adventurers, wannabes?
Yeah.
Well, that immediately, I mean, if you flew to Warsaw, you don't not take anything with you. I mean, how are you going to get kitted out when you get there?
Well,
the Ukrainians going to have to, you know,
Yeah.
which obviously, you know, they're going to have to provide.
Yeah.
Kit. But yeah, there's a few people. This book really resonated with me because I think about 3 months ago, a former British Army officer who was part of the Ukrainian Foreign Legion, he had lost a limb fighting in Ukraine, and he'd then come back to England. He was a former officer, I think, in the household division, and I think he'd really struggled with life, and I think he had killed himself. It was a horrific story. And this book is very powerful in that regard. But he basically takes a number of volunteers and follows their story, and it's really, really good. Sorry, am I boring you?
Happy Christmas, everyone.
Yeah. I get that you are right. This is the final book. Is extremely.
You've done this before.
I had last 6 months ago.
It's got form.
Yeah, right. So I guess we should all pick a nice, fun,
Oh,
quick fire, fun book. Doesn't have to be recent. That will uplift the spirits for the Christmas season. I would probably pick a historical fiction Catch-22, Joseph Heller. Can't go wrong with that.
A Christmas Carol should be revisited. It's a wonderful story of redemption and Christmas, but it also, again, it teaches you brevity and how to write.
Well, I haven't read it, so I should read that.
You haven't read A Christmas Carol?
Badly done indeed. That's Jane Austen.
Roger?
I mean, it's not very festive at all, but
We expect nothing less.
one of my standout books this year was rereading Storm of Steel.
Oh my God!
Sven Hassel.
Which I mean, you could say, you know, maybe it's, you know, Christmas on Trenches. He doesn't talk about that though. But it's
I read
just
it this
astonishingly
year.
good.
It's
you know?
very good, but it's quite brutal.
Loved it. It's brutal. So yeah, I mean that's like Christmas in our house. It's open warfare, trenches, lots of
I
tears,
believe that.
lots of PTSD.
I've met Roger's wife, and she's lovely, so I do not believe that for 1 second. And Antonia?
So I have a rare break from reading books for work because I'm not filing a local fiction column in December, and my book of choice that I'm reading right now is Trollope. I always go back to Trollope. I'm finding it increasingly hard to find a Trollope that I haven't read, and I found one, Dr. Wirtle's School, so I just started that last night. So all Trollope, I recommend Trollope above everybody. He's so much better than Dickens. Sorry, I reckon you're either Team Trollope or Team Dickens, and I'm Team Trollope.
My dad's Team Trollope. He loves it.
I'd fight you I'd literally wrestle naked for Trollope if I had to. I don't think I would have to though. I can't imagine a situation where that would be required. But if it was,
Jasmine, our umpire needs to pick.
I actually cannot believe you've put me on the spot like this. This is crazy. Elizabeth Fremantle's Disobedient. Great book. Everyone should read it.
I could not agree more. Elizabeth Fremantle is one of the best writers of historical fiction going. She's absolutely
wonderful.
genius
Yeah.
and only very slightly related to Jasmine.
I
Really?
I couldn't say. I couldn't say.
Wonderful. Okay, well, this is fantastic.
We'll never ask you again.
This has been a lot of fun. That was the Books of the Year. This is me signing out my final Aspects of History podcast. So,
Oh, Ollie!
thank you very much.
And thank you, Ollie. You've
Thank
been
you, Ollie.
brilliant.
Yeah, you've done fabulous.
I mean, you're not dying. That made it
No,
sound like
no,
he was
still
dying.
alive. More to come on this.
Hurrah.
Thanks so much for listening. Links are in the show notes. Please share with friends and family. And if you want to get in touch, you can through X or email history@aspectsofhistory.com. But until then, thank you and good night.